Robinson and
Okay.
start over. I will call the Cotuit Water Commissioners meeting to order, September 19th. Commissioners Cherbuck, Robinson, and Horsley are all in attendance. And we will begin the agenda with public comment. No public comment. Great, well, thank you. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Okay, we will move on to review and approval of minutes. Gentlemen have a chance to look at it, and anybody want to make a motion? I have looked at it.
I have looked at them. I move that we accept it as written.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Gonna get me now, huh?
I keep the original, yes.
Okay. So water quality report, Chris?
Just the fact that we did do our monthly samples, everything came back free and clear, full form. And we haven't got any results from any extras yet. Out there.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me, I don't know. I reported last time, I did have our HAA 5 trial and methanes come back, our byproducts came back and everything was well under minimum to us, yeah. But that's all that we had for the response.
Okay, and I'm sorry, the first ones you're waiting for, which was that PFAS samples?
We did take PFAS, I'm still waiting on those.
when
I
do we-
did report, I think, nitrate last time. In the meantime, our chlorine byproducts, which trialmethane.
Yeah.
So that's, everything seems to be okay with water quality.
Okay, I'll certainly be interested to see the PFAS results.
Yeah, and it's in to come under my report, but it kind of comes in on the same thing. We did get our results from the UCMR 5 results, which are PFAS and the PFAS 6 and the rest of the unregulated contaminants and lithium that EPA has asked us to test. 6 months ago, I tested them and they finally told me I could see the results last week. They've been available online and I just wasn't sure if I was reading them right, but everything was underneath their readable limits.
You know, I'm not familiar with lithium. Why they're asking?
They're asking for lithium now. Yeah, so it's a new.
I know we're looking for it for iPhones.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you how long it took them is that today I had to take the next set they wanted me to take. So I'll tell you in another 6 months how these ones are.
Okay.
Isn't that also a tranquilizer?
Yeah.
Which one are they looking for?
Right.
Yeah, so when I get those other results, I don't think these should be included in the ones that were taken now through Mass. This is all EPA, and I don't have the actual levels. They just say underneath their readable limits.
If you get the results well in advance of the next meeting, can you email them around? Because I'd be interested to see.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
That'd be great, thanks. Thanks.
On
Okay.
these sodium results, do these correlate seasonally to the road salt season?
We haven't seen it. We've been looking at that, and Chris, do you want to answer first?
It's tough because for it to get down into the groundwater, then move from there to where we are. It's hard you'd have to pay quite a bit of money to have somebody say, okay, it takes this long for it to get from point A to point B and this point to get down into the groundwater. So it would have to take and.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, chances are it's going in along Route 28, infiltrated to the ground, and then whatever the flow time is from there to the valves. Now, Tom Camberry's model, he can do particle tracking and he can actually tell you.
He might be able to help us out.
So we might want to ask him that. If you want to remember that, ask him, that'd be a good, but it's tricky. If we did look at the data before trying to correlate, we just were never able to do it. And I think that's the reason.
Well, there's travel time for particles to move that are not influenced by pumping. And then if you're pumping, it would be faster.
So a foot per day is a good estimate on ambient flow. And then as it gets closer to the well, it speeds up a lot. So.
Yeah, when we start sucking it in, it's gonna pull it towards you more.
What would you say the distance of the wells is to the,
Thank God you got that map out.
400 feet? I think that's 400 foot? 500 feet. No, 500 foot an inch.
1,500 feet, 2,000 feet?
Probably.
So that could be, that could be this years.
Yeah, this zone one around it, then you get the zone two, it's this big shaded area
Well,
down.
1,500 feet could be 2 or 3 years. Well, and it's gonna get spread out, so it's tricky.
Yeah, it's almost the same. Actually, look at it, they one.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, you wanna move on to superintendent report?
Sure. Oh, okay, superintendent's report read on September 19th, 2023. In August of 2022, 36,073,000 gallons of water. In August of 2023, we pumped 24,361,000 gallons of water, for a decrease of 11,712,000 gallons of water. So just looking back quickly, between the 14 million last month, the 11, this plus, we're close to 30 million less this year than last year at this time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's all the rain, it's all our efforts. But if it's the rates,
It's probably,
things are working.
probably a
We can't point fingers just yet. We want to.
Well, the next drought year will tell.
That's right. Thank you.
And how many, best estimate of number of irrigation wells put in? Best guess,
We-
20, 30?
I'll tell you something, and I haven't been able to talk to him again. I got a concerned citizen called me, or actually approached me one morning when I came into work and said, there's a company putting an irrigation system down on Old Oyster Road. And I said, well, I'll take off right down there and go see what's going on. Concerned citizen.
Who drives by there on the way to work in the morning?
So I went down there.
Oh,
So I went down there and they put on a well, they had a well already there and they were hooking up to a well. And he said, oh God, I know. He says, this is my 33rd one this year. He says, you guys are killing it for me.
is that Desmond?
I was coached.
Okay,
So I don't know if it was the 33rd one in Cotuit or if it's just the 33rd that he, but he says, this is the 33rd one that I've had to do this year to hook up to.
Well, I heard one customer say that one $8,000 bill and the next phone call was to get the well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just did me, and then I've seen 2 new signs up in San Tuit.
Yeah.
Last week.
I was gonna say, I've given out 4 or 5 signs this year. The church put in a well this year with their renovation. There's quite a few going up.
well, I think like you said,
Yeah.
Chris, I mean, it's working, we're conserving water, we're in a lot better place than we were.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
I can tell you right now, this year, I was talking to JR this morning, and I said, I haven't come in and seen every pump lit up this year, and he goes, I came in a Saturday, he said, last month and saw it. He said, but, he says, I haven't seen it really in the morning like we used to.
Lit up meaning.
Leaving every pumping station running, you know, in the morning like that, and the tank, even if everything's running, it's just to keep up with what's there. It means that it has dropped down enough that everything has to come on.
Yeah.
So, and that's only happened, and that I've noticed once. I haven't gone through and checked every day or anything like that, but we are pumping a lot less this year than we did last year. Last year, you came in every, 2 weeks straight, I'd come in every morning, going, oh, no, not still. Yeah.
is it, the other thing that would be interesting to track with this, I remember initially there was a concern that if we conserve too much water, we're gonna go out of business, we won't have the revenue. So hopefully the rates have offset that, but if there's a way to track where we're at on that periodically, that might be good. I don't know how you do that, but
So with the summer, we won't know until we read meters at the end of December,
right.
but we certainly track
So-
revenue year over year.
And maybe at
And the
that point, we
commitments.
could do a look.
Yeah.
My guess is we're still gonna be ahead of the game as we have been in the past, but it would be nice to kind of track that, because some people are concerned we might be putting ourselves out of business.
One thing to note though on this, I know we had that we were coming out of the drought at this point a little bit.
Yeah.
Last year, we had over 11 inches of rain in August.
Yeah.
4 inches in one day.
Right.
This year, we had over 7 inches of rain, 4 inches in one day. So this, and we pump that much less, so it's kind of weird, so it
Yeah.
seems like it's been a drier, or around the same
Yeah.
conditions. At least as last year, it might not have as much as last year, but it's been around where it's, instead of putting 2 inches in, maybe it puts an inch down. Or something like that, enough to keep a sprinkler system from coming on, so.
So just to
Yeah.
recap for our visitors, which.
Yes, yes. Hello.
Uh, What we've been trying to do is address the severe, what we consider to be over pumping in the summer months. Half of it we think is related to irrigation systems. And so with the combination of the change in rates, which is a more progressive accelerated rates as you go up the volume per household in 2019, as well as the ban on new irrigation systems hooked up to the water supply as opposed to people putting in their own wells. We think those two things are having a dampening effect on the pumping rates, pumping volumes in the summer for the last year, certainly. So as Chris said, I'm looking at 28 million less in June, July, August of this year than last year. So that's a really significant thing. But we also know that it's correlated to drought conditions. So we wanted to, we just need more experience to see if it's clearly the rates and less irrigation connected. Or if it's more drought related. So some people still irrigate in the rain because it's on a timer.
But
So
I asked Chris back earlier in the month about what our theoretical limits are, and permitted at 0.64 million gallons per day, so 640,000 gallons per day.
Yeah.
And we've exceeded that
Oh, yeah.
on average.
Yeah.
And you have my reading glasses, so I can figure it out.
Here.
2015, 2016, and 2020 exceeded limits.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, we don't have a lot of wiggle room.
No. And I remember Chris was telling me a year or two ago where the water levels in the pump were getting pretty close too, right?
Yeah, there was a couple that got pretty close to the screen a couple of years ago, yeah.
So we were bumping up against not only a physical permit level, but also a physical.
Right, yeah.
And what happens if we pull sand in through streams? Is that just
Then
disaster?
you're gonna mess up your motors, you're gonna mess up everything, yeah. Yeah, you gotta make sure you don't do that. If you do that, it's bad.
still think we need a graphic from Tufts University that shows lots of little straws outside
Explain why the
zone
private
2
wells-
versus the one big home.
Yeah, we could do that. Next public presentation, I'll put something
Get
together.
your paper.
Yes. Chris, anything else on superintendents?
No, but I'll go through my quick stuff here on the general discussion and everything, quick association news. Barnstable County did have a cyber class last week that a couple of the guys attended. New England, they were right on it with the league, calling around, making sure everybody was doing an inventory to see what people have in Mass Warren, which is basically mutual aid for Massachusetts. To make sure that everybody knew that if you needed something, give a call, I'll front it here, the Kristen King from New England Water Works said, she's part of it, and just let everybody know, you need something, let us know. Great. They got a big conference this weekend also in Burlington, Vermont, with different classes and all the new stuff out there. Mass Water Works, they haven't been doing a lot, just some classes, throwing out newsletter, staying on top of anything that's going on with the state right now. And Mass Rural had a big combination trifecta, they called it, where they did a couple classes, had a class day event with an appreciation thing for everybody and some kind of cookout and everything else. But that was a time when I was on vacation, I believe. Actually, I think it's when I go on vacation in October that they had it. No, it was September. I was trying to remember which one it was. It's September they had it, yeah. So I haven't heard too much of them. Everybody's kind of keeping it low right now. I don't know if it's because it's the end of the summer, but I think things will be kicking back up with them. On the general discussion, we did put in one new service. We had a person go off a well and take town water, which, some people it takes a while to do. This is one over on the dirt section of Pompanesett Road. Where it goes between Fuller's Marsh and Rushing Marsh.
Mhm.
We didn't have any leaks or replacement services done. I haven't got really an update on Lewis Pond Road. We did the original walkthrough last month. They asked me for some maps. I did send them some maps and service ties and everything else over there. They're pretty happy about that. I called the gentleman who has been there and been my contact for quite a while. And he told me he walked off the job yesterday. So I signed a contract with GHD to do that job over there, and I have some new contacts I have to talk to tomorrow. So,
And this is laying new mains on.
yeah, it's basically, all they're doing is helping us go through the bidding process, and we're gonna probably put a inspector down there ourselves and everything else. I'll have to look at it again just to make sure that everything's switched over properly and all the testing gets done. We can go from there. We are starting tomorrow. We're gonna close West Street down and start draining it because it's supposed to be cleaned on Thursday. And they'll be doing the washing it out inside. Not too worried about it because we're not pumping a lot of water right now, so not people, it might shock the system a little. We might start getting some dirty water complaints because it's gonna start reversing the flow around town and everything else. And what we got our plans. We're gonna try putting the one station on that's out here and let it run as soon as we start draining it, so it keeps water coming out in the end of town here and tries to keep a little bit at least of the flow coming this way. I did get a request for our PFAS litigation. We got a request for our W-9 for the two people that are talking about settling it.
So this is regarding our joining the class action suit against the PFAS manufacturers that I know at least one of them has been settled out of court, right?
Two of the big ones, yeah.
So eventually we may see a check come into the,
We might see money, we might see something that goes to the side in case there's any problems in the future. They had a couple different options out there.
But we only get the check if we need the treatment. We exceed. the limit,
Correct,
right?
correct, yeah. Well, I think they might do it anyways,
Really?
like with the understanding that if we have to do something in the future, we
Okay.
won't go after them. So. The last thing is Columbus Day week, I shall be gone out of the state. So I won't be, and I'll be out of phone contact. So if there's anything, call Jen, talk to Aaron and Matt, they'll both be there with them. They can make their executive decisions together and run it by you guys and go from there. But like I said, I won't be back at the following week. I'll be gone for a week. That's all. I'll be up in the great hills of Maine without reception.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Chris, could I get a cell number for those guys? I have both of yours, but. just in
Yeah.
case
I'll send you their
something
contact.
happens,
Yeah.
That'd be great. I don't think I have either one of their cells. Okay, thanks,
No problem.
Chris.
And that's it.
Great. Well, let's move on to old business. We got a few items here, and I'll do the first update on the source water protection program. As you may recall at the last meeting and in the minutes, we were talking about some potential legislation changes to enable us to do things in the zone 2 area. Specifically, we're talking about upgrading septic systems in that area to mitigate water quality impacts. And we did reach out to Mark Boudreau, who put me in touch with Kip Diggs. Kip came to our last meeting, some of you have seen that. And Kip and I have been talking several times about what possibilities might exist. Last Sunday, I think it was, he contacted me and said that he had been in touch with a gentleman by the name of Brian Bragington Smith, who has been active on Cape Cod with water quality issues, and that they jointly had another idea to try to mitigate issues in this area. And that was to possibly build a collection system and bring the wastewater over to the Stop and Shop plaza, because the Stop and Shop, when it was permitted, I do remember this Cape Cod Commission required them to put some extra capacity, thinking that that could be a
Yep.
neighborhood system. I don't know how much, I don't remember the capacity, nor do I know if it's enough for this area, but, just to kind of finish that summary, Kip did reach out to Mark Ells with this idea, and I learned from Kip that this was not, it's something they had already looked at, apparently, the town, and they felt this was not a viable solution. And that's what that is. I haven't spoken with, Mark directly, Mark Ells, but, that's just what Kip had told me. So when we had that conversation, I said, well, let's, continue the discussion on the legislation, because we want to at least keep that option open. And he agreed that he would, continue to look into that. So, that is where that
So
stands.
this would be. The effect of this would be to enable us to have the legal authority to provide public subsidies to put enhancements onto septic systems directly up gradient of our public supply wells, particularly in the Mariner Drive, keep bringing it, Little River Estates. Is that what Little River? And, which right now we don't have that authority according to our attorney.
This is the area targeted.
Yeah,
The groundwater flows this direction towards the wells. This whole neighborhood is on-site septic system. Pretty clear, according to the zone 2 work and the work that Tom Camberry did, that wastewater, remnants of that wastewater ending up in the water supply. There should be no surprise, it happens all across the Cape. This is not unique, but that's a pretty close target. And I think we're learning that, a lot of things can come from an on-site septic system beyond just nitrogen. Certainly, the stuff we're finding, emerging contaminants, pharmaceuticals, PFAS, you name it, are potentially in wastewater.
sodium,
Was that?
sodium too.
So, yes, so that was the idea.
What are you talking about scope in that neighborhood? And would you just do spot checks on failed systems, or would you just do the whole neighborhood?
No, well, Tom Camberry's modeling work gave us some pretty discrete.
All right.
Yes.
The zone 2 map, which is the shaded area here, is a state, sort of sanctioned method to come up with the worst case possible capture zone. But that's rarely, if ever, occurs. That was, I mean, the pumping is at maximum rates, 180 days, no recharge, so 6 months. No water. So it's a pretty, unlikely event. So this map shows the actual.
Side of these are the ones that would most directly affect the 3 main wells here. And so this is Little River Estates here. And, you know, it's not to say that this house isn't contributing, but we're pretty sure that these ones were most relevant. So,
But what this basically is designed to getting better, we have a better understanding of the water flow. And we can start to target areas. So one of the options we talked about, David, was targeting those properties, and somehow getting those septic systems as a priority upgraded to some of the newer technologies that remove quite a few of these pollutants.
The Barnstable Clean Water Coalition did Schubels.
Yes, fuel plant.
Has there been any results from that?
Oh, yeah. There are a lot of results. In fact, EPA has just published them. And I mean, on the nitrogen side, they're getting about 90% removal, which is actually better than the Hyannis treatment plant. So it's pretty impressive.
What does the treatment plant remove that?
About 80 something percent. Yeah. And there is some indication from work done in Long Island with these same technologies that they will remove a lot of the organic chemicals, some of the pharmaceuticals, etc. It's a wood chip based technology. And so it's pretty encouraging results. And I mean, if they could sewer, the other thing I should mention is this is on the town sewer plan as phase 3 plus. And I think I mentioned it at an earlier meeting. I did speak with Rob Steen, who's at DPW and sort of in charge of the wastewater plan. He did agree that this was way at the end of the 30-year plan. But that if we could come up with some money as an incentive, they might be able to bump it up in terms of, so that's another option. We meaning the district could contribute, I guess, to the town. That was his question, and possibly expedite the time.
Now, who holds the fund now for septic loans? Isn't there,
It's county,
It's county.
yeah.
why wouldn't this go into that?
Well, there's a few options to finance this. There's that, which is essentially 0% financing for the upgrade. There's also currently a $6,000 tax credit for septic upgrade under state law, and there's still pending legislation to increase that 6,000, I think, to 20 some odd thousand. But right now it's 6,000 for a tax credit, which is essentially,
Sure.
money in the bank. So there are those two opportunities, but the county loan is in fact a loan program, so they still have to pay for it over time.
There's like a 0% financing.
They have, it's some,
It's a
depending, I
small,
think
I
it's
think
related.
it's a very small percentage that they have, and it's a, like a 20-year payback though, or something like that. It's a real long.
Right, it's long.
Yeah.
They have different rates, but I think they go as low as 0, depending on your income level. So those are the options, and the thought was maybe we can somehow incentivize this and get going on it sooner rather than later. I personally would rather not wait 30 years to start addressing some of these wastewater issues. We know they're there. I believe the science. I think it's heading towards the wells, and to wait 30 years to me is maybe not the right thing to do. So I'm still thinking we should try to pursue either expediting the town sewer plan if we want to go that route, and or doing the septic upgrades.
Some comments back here.
Oh, sorry, yes. Current estimate for these systems we're talking about, if this, okay, there's two scenarios. This comes from the Schubel's Pond work, where they actually put in 12 of these and they have all the detailed paperwork and receipts and everything. And if the system, if they are able to keep the existing septic tank and the leaching field, then put this treatment in the middle, it's on the order of $25,000. If they have to replace everything, it's more like $45,000. But so it's really lot by lot, and according to the Schubel's Pond study, about half were in one of those categories and the other half were in the other. So you can average it and say 35 grand.
And is there an annual operating cost? These are.
There is.
electrified, right? So,
Yeah, and that's something that's still sort of being developed because these are relatively new technologies. They've been around for around 5 years. But, and what happens is initially, while they're under what they call provisional approval, which is what they're now, they have to test the first 2 years 4 times a year. Once they get past that, it's annually. So if you look at it over a 20-year planning period, Brian Bumgarner, who runs the Massachusetts Septic System Test Center, ASTEC, is estimating that the annual cost is somewhere between $500 and $1,000 a year, which is pretty much in the same range as what people are paying for the sewer connection. That's a fee.
There's no mechanical parts to these at all, or is it all?
The only thing in the wood chip system is a aerator, which is somewhat analogous to like the thing you put in your aquarium. It's a low power aerator. That's it. Everything else is gravity, which is nice.
Yeah.
If power goes off, the system continues to work. The removal might come down a little bit for a few days when the power is out.
For the area
When
stuff.
you look at the
Yeah.
load over the year, it's insignificant, so it's pretty low. So they look like the reviews on these things have been really good. The town of Tisbury, where I am working, the consultant is requiring the systems on all new construction, any repair, all upgrades, and real estate transfers.
That's Tisbury?
Fine, they've got about 30 of these in, and they're, and everybody's, these are all being paid for by homeowners. And they say that, homeowners are not, once in a while they ask a question, they explain it's a water quality thing, people are saying, okay, I get it. So it's working in Tisbury.
Is there maintenance of them? Do those wood chips have to be replaced at any time?
Well, they haven't been around long enough, they will at some point, but the best estimates are 20, 30 years plus.
Same thing as you got now.
What's that?
That's the same kind of thing you got now, or,
Yeah.
After 20, 30 years, you have to replace your septic system.
And the wood chips the replacement's pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
So.
Do you still pump these, or is it?
Oh, yeah, so.
You still pump like you do with
Oh, yeah.
everything else, yeah, okay.
Same, that's.
Yeah,
the
that's
key
what I
point.
thought.
Right, right. So, that's where we stand. I don't have a specific recommendations point, other than I think we gotta keep studying it and talking about it.
Well, what we talked about with Kip was he wanted village consensus.
Yes,
So the only way we can get that is to have an article at the district meeting next May.
we could do, that's something we should consider keeping.
So as
Yeah,
there,
keep on the agenda,
when do they put together a warrant for that, Jen, in January or something?
March,
March?
Yeah.
It has to be published 30 days prior to the annual meeting, which is the end of May, so they start putting it together in March.
So we drafted some language and
Yeah,
Yeah, discuss it potential in February, right?
Yeah,
so that's all I've got, and unless people have any questions or comments on that.
You mentioned something about trying to get some legislation to give more of the tax credit. Is there anybody that we can reach out with the public to request that, the pressure on legislators to do that?
well, the question is, what can we do to put pressure on the legislature? So I think that what our state rep was looking for was an indication from Cotuit people that this was a good idea to add to the Cotuit Fire District legislation.
Tax credit.
We're talking about only about this would be that.
That's different, that's a state thing, so we're talking about the water commission actually giving subsidies in addition to those tax
Well,
credits.
just to clarify a little further, the draft legislation doesn't talk specifically about this septic system upgrade. What it does is it just provides more authority for us to do things in general. To
Water
protect
quality
the water
improvements,
on private land. So we could be doing a lot of things. When I read the legislation that was written, in which year again?
1936.
It's pretty out of date.
yeah,
So as I mentioned to Kip and to Mark, shouldn't we have legislation that enables our district to protect their drinking water?
right, I believe the current says that we cannot perform work on private land and pay for it with district funds.
It doesn't even say that. It's just, it's,
It's part of our legal act, it says that we have to get that change, and that's what we're talking about here.
We were asking about the state.
Yeah.
But she's asking about the grant
yeah.
to go from 6,000 to
Right.
20,000. Is
Okay,
there
tax
anybody?
credit.
Yeah,
Tax
I
credit.
understand that the Cape's legislative delegation is pushing back because of the DEP amendments to Title V, saying that this is a burden that the state has to follow with some cash, and so this could be escalating. I just
Could be,
don't know where the delegation is.
the other thing on that source was, as Tom Cambereri is
thank
gonna
you.
be here, Thursday also to do some soundings at the wells. And, Scott has asked me to ask him too about a possibility of, testing the well over on, he could do probably both Santuit and, ones that we installed. And the one on Mariner Circle, the two new wells, see if we could take a couple tests out of them and send them in to see what's in the water. Basically, if there's anything coming from either points, how close we are to Newtown Road. And anything coming from 28 right there closer.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to affordable access to drinking water, Commissioner Robinson.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Jen for helping me with my math. So the whole idea is that this would enable every household to enjoy a $40 a year discount on their initial usage of water. That's what we call the minimum excess usage. And that $40 a year savings for everybody would be made up by increasing the top two tiers by 15%. So that's people that use over 100,000 gallons a year. And that represents 21% of the households that are using those two top tiers. And so this whole idea would be revenue neutral in the sense that by adding the 15% increase to those heavy users of water, we could reduce the the minimum rates for everybody and not lose the district money. The question is, if you would keep increasing these top two tiers, are we gonna force more people off the system? And I say, maybe, great, and then we'll adjust the rates down again because we don't, you know, we don't wanna create a revenue crunch. Just remembering that the revenue that the district is now enjoying from the water rates is in excess of what the department needs. So the water rates right now are more than sufficient to pay for the operations and also to help defray the capital expenses. So in terms of losing money for the district and saddling the taxpayers, I don't see it. I think it's a marginal cost.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think the fact that we're making more money when we need to run the business is partly because we haven't been investing money in source water protection, which in my view is part of running the business. So I think that, at least in my own mind, that's a logical place to invest in our protection. Right now, we're not investing anything in protection of wetlands sampling.
But we're not allowed by the bylaws to bank a surplus for.
No, we're not. That's right. That's right.
So we can't take this surplus and.
No, but just planning ahead, like with these source water protection expenditures, if we know we have the revenue, cover that, because we talked about spacing out over multiple years, then we could cover it, but you're right, we can't bank.
And we have the stabilization fund, which
Yeah.
some of this can go into.
Right.
But anyway, so we talked last time about encouraging both the legislation that you're talking about and this policy to get more input, perhaps from the civic association meetings. So as we get through into the spring, at this point, I consider this ready to be voted on next month by the commissioners as a endorsement of the draft, if you're satisfied with it. Not that that means it's going into effect yet. I don't think it should go into effect until FY 24. So that would mean 20,
We're in.
we're in
FY
24. Okay, I gotta change that in here then. It's been so long. But in any case, so it's something that I think that we should endorse so that it can go out to the public and then have a final vote sometime this spring.
What is the delta between last spring's proposal and this one? We get away with.
Yeah. So we got rid of the idea of free water and I took a lot of public comments on that and I accepted it. So we were talking about eliminating about 185,000. And now we're talking about eliminating 92,000, but making it up on the back end with the high volume users. So. And I think that this is a win-win and everybody would get a small subsidy. $40 a year is not a big deal to anybody. I think it's the principle of the thing. And if it could be revenue neutral, then I don't see any problem with it. I think we heard from the town, the district treasurer, that he didn't have a problem with it. The revenue neutral aspect of it. So.
Or from a cash flow perspective.
Well, what else do we need to do to bring it to a vote?
Well, I just changed it again today, so I think it's only fair to wait another month for you commissioners to decide whether you'd like to support it. And again, there's no rush. We have the winter to cogitate it, but I would like to have some support from the commissioners in order to bring it forward to the public again.
Yeah, well, and Carol, we just thank you for the deadline on submitting. This might have been a good thing to sneak in there. We just missed that deadline, right? No? Okay, maybe,
The October permit you should probably receive Wednesday or Thursday, and your submittal is in there.
okay, we should do that.
Which is,
Just.
No, yours, the one that you put
I
in,
I wrote a summary of what we're doing, but it didn't include this.
Yeah.
So the next deadline.
The next one, yeah.
Benefit issue is October
Yeah, right.
5th, Wednesday.
So maybe if it makes sense, would you mind drafting it for one paragraph? We could put in the newsletter. I think that might be one way to get this out.
Yeah.
And then would that be in advance? Would people have it before would it? next time we meet?
No, that would be the
November.
November newsletter.
Do you have a fall meeting of the association?
But community meetings, we don't have anything planned right now.
Well, I believe we don't need a community meeting just on this unless you think so, but one option would be if we get a description in the newsletter. People, it seems like people read that, it's pretty well read. And advertise that we're gonna be discussing it and voting it at the water commission meeting, then this could be the public forum. People have.
That's good. Good idea. So we haven't missed the deadline. If I get you something tomorrow,
We haven't missed the deadline for the November issue.
You get to the 5th of October. For November?
it should be on the
November.
same as yours. Is yours?
No, mine, the one I sent to you is already closed. That's for October.
Okay,
Yeah, so we're talking about the next one.
okay, all right.
Yeah. So that means we vote on it probably in December, which is, if it's not gonna go into effect until next year, it's probably okay.
Check it, make sure everything's.
That way, I think we can have good, public.
We can also send out an email on our constant contact list, which is over 600 now. With, about the meeting today onward as well, if you want, as a reminder to people.
Okay,
Always announce every month.
And we have about 900 water customer emails that we can blast.
okay. Anything else on that?
No.
No, are we good? Okay.
Thanks.
When we talked about it last, we talked about changing the minimum use to billing with the regular excess use bill. I would, if that passes, we talked about doing that. If it doesn't pass, I'd like to talk about doing that anyway. But we'll see, I'd like to make the changes all at once if that's.
Yeah.
That
So
would
that's
be-
more of a mechanical thing than a policy.
It's a billing thing,
Yeah.
right?
So
I would just like to make the change.
I don't know if we have to vote on that.
Changing the minimum use bill to not be a separate bill run in March and October, but including it with the excess use bill.
Just, again, thanks to Jen for
Yeah.
helping me with my math, which is not very good.
Together, we made it work.
Okay, well, I'm gonna propose, I'm just looking at the time here, I wanna make sure we get to the new business, we have to be out of here by 7. But, Jen, I think I'm gonna suggest we hold on the next item, the leak adjustment policies. I don't think I've
Yeah.
gotten you the changes. I know we talked about it, but I don't think you've actually, did I give you something?
You and I went back and forth with it. I took my stab at writing it. That's there. You can review that and we can.
Let's hold,
Next
time, that's gonna take a few minutes, I think that's okay, and let's get to, new business, the leak adjustment requests.
Yes. So this leak adjustment request is a carryover from our last meeting. We were starting to review it and we're running on short on time, so we wanted to carry it forward to this one. This was a leak that happened last February, a freeze up during that cold snap that we had in February. That created quite a substantial leak that wasn't noticed until there was a loss of pressure in a bathroom that wasn't used very often. The leak was found and addressed right away. At that time, we did do a meter reading to be able to know how much water was attributed to the loss from the leak versus their normal usage, and calculated this adjustment. Josh? This is just the property owner.
Is this the medical office professional building? Is that?
Across the street. The old Scandinavian
Yeah.
shop.
Okay. Okay. Ja, you buy the Swedish letters.
Key to go this place.
Hey, Jen, you have a recommendation?
So my recommendation was that we use their highest off-season, January to June. Usage as the benchmark for what they're responsible for 2 times that. Rather than their on-season, July through December, which does include some irrigation, and where we did the reading right away, we could attribute that to the leak.
Okay,
So the recommendation was to process an adjustment for relief in the amount of $5,781 is the leak was 290,000 gallons.
That would be the relief, or that's the amount, that's the charge.
The current bill was 7,333.
Okay,
The adjusted balance would bring it down to $1,552, providing relief of $5,781. Yeah.
would you like to speak to this? Tim?
Yes, I would. So,
Please.
I'm sorry to be here. Obviously.
No, thank you. This stuff happens.
Yeah, so we had that cold snap last year, there's a bathroom. In the older section of the building that's not used very often by the accounting firm that's in there. And when that was used, I was notified that there was no water pressure. And so, I sent the plumber to investigate, and what he had found is that we had a burst pipe and a crawl space, that wasn't connected to the basement, so that there was no water in the basement, it was just running to the ground.
Right,
So of course, we immediately fixed that, situation. And then the resolution to not have a problem with that again is we opened up the space from the basement to that crawl space, wide, so we could have that warm airflow, running through that space. We hadn't had a problem, I want to say I've been in there for maybe for 6 years, and we've not had any issues, so I think that opening that crawl space up to a heated space is gonna be sufficient. And then the other thing that now is just on my own, to-do list is the next cold snap we have, my job will just be to run up there and make sure that meter's not.
yeah.
And that'll be something that, I want for you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments?
Well, I'm still confused. So what is the, so you typically use a lot of water, is that correct? Do you think you use a lot of water?
I think I use a lot of water in the summertime.
Yeah.
And be honest with you, I've often shut the irrigation system right off. And so the folks who rent that place, it sits nicely on the corner and you're keeping it looking appropriate for the tenants is kind of my job.
Yeah.
So in summertime, my regular bill that I get in the fall, I check on. Yeah, I do, and I don't really know what I can do, about that.
How big is the irrigated area, I would say?
Square footage, I don't know off the top of my head, it's the corner of Main and Route 28. We're sitting right across from the Cotuit Museum on,
The gallery side, no, the medical.
well, this
Oh,
is.
the
this
other side.
is the building.
The old white.
Where Cape Cod Elder Law is.
So that's your problem.
It is.
Okay, I got it now,
Yeah,
thank you.
and so the irrigation is just in that front corner in
Wow.
the beds.
Yeah, so why so much water being used?
Yeah,
yeah.
there's
going out the street?
there's not irrigation in the back.
These are not heavy user businesses, though. There's a gallery and professional offices. There's nobody's preparing food or anything.
There's no water usage for the businesses whatsoever, and so I am sort of shocked on the, but it's the summer bill, and then there must be a problem. Well, then I get the winter bill, and it's not astronomical, apparently it's the summer usage.
Yeah,
They keep the place looking,
Well, I have a crazy idea that if we vote to save you $5,000, you could use that money to install a well.
I'm so listening to the meeting thus far, even without just the regular usage, it's so substantial that looking into that is definitely on my list.
yeah.
It's several $1,000s a year, it's a lot. It wouldn't probably take a whole lot of years. Unlike you, I don't need Jen for my math.
He's an English major.
I can take,
$1,000 a year for the line for 12,000, it's a 25% return on investment.
Right.
It's really phenomenal.
Yeah.
So what I think what I'm going to do for this season coming up is I'm gonna regard well or not, I'm gonna reduce the time on lawn. Cause it's a lot. I agree, it uses a lot of water, and I don't think that it needs so much water to still be pretty and still be appropriate for the location.
yeah, I mean, it's a well-kept property. But I mean, I don't think, I've been here 5 years, I think now, we've never granted that magnitude of relief for a leak that wasn't. I mean, I still can't figure it out.
I mean, what's causing the amount of water?
There's no baths, no showers, no cooking.
So the irrigation, I mean, the other thing is it can be a small, one of the reasons we're concerned about the irrigation system, it can be a small leak in the irrigation system that nobody really detects. I mean, at some point you lose pressure, right? But, I don't know. It just seems, I agree with Commissioner Robinson here, it's just unusual to have that kind of water use for such a small irrigated area. It's not that big.
No, it's not that big.
So, but I agree, if we could get you to get on your own private well, that might.
What, just like,
I can tell you, a ballpark, I've heard them go in for as low as 5.
Yeah.
I've heard them go in for as high as 10. So it depends how much they have to go to get to water. I think you put out a price one time that was around 6 or 7 to
We got a
go
couple
40
quotes.
feet down.
Yeah.
Something like that from a couple different companies.
Yep.
if I could put a well in for $10,000, I would make that even second. You know,
Okay, put the well in. I will hold this in abeyance. We'll put a lien on the property and we'll release the lien as soon as.
I think this, I agree, if we could do that.
It is such a substantial amount of money. If I could put a well in for $6,000 to $10,000, it really would pay for itself.
Oh, yeah,
for
they will,
years.
they will.
That's.
So how do we, is that a motion you're making there?
Well, again, I don't know how the mechanics work. If you could agree to put it in this fall, then we could hold this in abeyance for a few months and. Get a couple of bids. Chris knows who you could call for bids.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got numbers for you to reach people at and everything.
That's a fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you were thinking of anyway, it seems to me like it's a win-win. And because we are trying to get people off the public water supply for irrigation, as you probably have heard tonight. So.
So we put a hold on this then, Jen, until.
Yep, so I have it in a no penalty status, so that balance will just hang out there as
Okay.
long as we make a decision by May of next year.
Why don't you, thank you for coming tonight, thank you for the clear explanation, and thank you for correcting my fellow commissioner on his math. But I was, if you'd be willing to come back to us whenever you can get some documentation of what you're doing, we can put on the agenda then, Jen, and.
And then
Dave's got some questions.
I would just add to, and I don't mean to interrupt, looking back at this gentleman's previous bills, they are all normally anywhere between $1,000 and $1,700. So the amount that we would be adjusting it down to is normal for that property
So it's just, it's extra this year.
because of the leak.
Because of the leak, yeah.
Okay,
It
okay.
was
How
like
long
two.
is it running?
I think it was about a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's, you know,
It'll add up.
and I know you're talking about Judy's place over in the back there, which,
It's that bathroom.
yeah, it's in the back there where she probably wasn't working that time of year and everything else. I've walked into somebody's house before, and asked to read the water meter and opened up, they had a hatch outside on their deck to go down. I picked it up like that and I got squirted right between the eyes from the water that was going. And I was looking at her, like, how could you not know that it was leaking? And then she said, I didn't hear a thing. But she was also 70-something years old and the TV was going full blast.
I want to move this along.
Sorry, and Dave has some questions.
Sorry, go ahead.
With the repair of the burst pipe, are you back to normal or are you still seeing excessive or really
Well,
high usage?
so when you see back, we're back to prior to the leak. But even prior to the
But you
leak, that
have-
summer number is fast.
Right.
To me, 1,700 even sounds like it's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And if you could, so on another project, off Cape, we're drilling the well right now, and it's, the price is of $25 a foot over hundreds of feet. And so it's a massive number to put in this drilled well. And so we're on Cape Cod, we're talking about 40 feet, we're talking about 6,000 or 10,000. And what we're spending annually, I don't even remember. I should know exactly off the top of my head, but the math really is in favor of putting in a well. And it's not like we're spending 500 a year and the well is 10,000, it's thousands a year. And if we get in for under that, the return, the numbers
Yeah.
really work well.
Okay. Anything else on this? All right, so we'll put this on the agenda in the future. You get back to us with,
Thank you. So
Yeah.
I'll just call tomorrow. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John.
again, we have some other leak adjustments.
Nope, that was the only one. Thank you.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Well, let's get on to the new business and Commissioner Sherbuck, you have 2 items here, email address.
The first is to ask the question of my fellow commissioners, but perhaps the other elected officials about the legal requirements on using official email versus personal email. As I understand it, if there is a subpoena on, say, an open meeting law violation, any of our email accounts are open to discovery. But we are in control of those accounts and could delete or expunge a record that. Now, I know that if I was a federal judge and I conducted any legal business off of a US government email address, I'd be disbarred. And so I'd like to ask the other commissioners, perhaps put it to the Prudential Committee and see, are any of the other elected boards using fire district addresses? What is the official address? You're on
I'm on .org, yeah.
you're on a .org. And should we as well? I don't want to. I don't want to open up another email account, et cetera.
I just want to make sure I understand the intent here. Is it, you think it would keep us more legally safe from our private email?
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially, if somebody wants to investigate.
Perhaps we could ask, the district council, Mark.
Yeah, maybe.
What
I think
is,
that's probably a good idea.
what's the guidance here?
I'm just wondering if somebody were to sue us, that's the scenario we're talking about here. Wouldn't they request all the Cotuit Water District emails and any other personal to make sure there's nothing going on behind the scenes, or would they not have the right to do that? You don't know. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I think it's a good idea, something we should look into.
And I believe that the fire commission is, I think I have seen that one of them does
I think,
have,
exactly, and that's why I raised the
but
question.
it's under the Cotuit Fire Department.
Brandon Parks uses a Comcast address.
Yeah.
Jessica representative uses Comcast.
It would make us look a little more official too.
Some use the Cotuit Fire District.org, but it's basically a ghost account that forwards to their personal email address.
But in the forwarding, there's a
doesn't
records
work.
retention law, and this stuff has to be
I
held for
agree.
a certain amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes,
just looking at the Cotuit Fire District website, and all the Prudential committee members use Cotuit.org, and all the fire commissioners do too.
Is it under water?
The water commissioners.
Water.
Well, can we just make a decision right now? I mean, it's.
Yep. So I
need-
reached out to Secure Networks to ask about additional email accounts on the domain, and it's $15 a month for each
Do you have
one.
any opposition to this?
So that's $45 a month times 12. I can't do that math.
Only times 3 for you
But you
3.
should use Cotuit.org.
Well, we have Cotuit Water.
Doesn't matter, you're part of the Cotuit Fire District.
That's,
So if you're
I think that's,
commissioners,
Is
you
there-
We want to be Cotuit Water.
yeah. That's
Be whatever you want to do.
confusing. That's
If you're a
confusing.
Cotuit Fire District, you'll have to reach out to
What
Ms.
does yours
Parks
say?
to
again?
get
What's
set up.
your, email, I can't remember.
We're Cotuit Water.
Cotuit Water.
Yeah, that's what we were.
Yeah, Cotuitwater.org, we
We
pay
could do
for our
that.
own secure networks.
Correct.
Well, is there a motion to do this, get this done, or?
Yeah,
Can you talk about it? It's a good idea. It doesn't hurt. Might help.
$600 a year,
Good math.
something like that.
took them a while, I saw.
I'd
They had a few off.
Basically $50.
It's cheaper than the fire district, it's going to the fire district, 600 a year for 3 addresses, is nuts.
It's gonna cost us 600 probably to say water, is that what I'm hearing? And free if it go fire district?
I have no idea what the expense is if
All
people
right,
are
let's
free.
find that out and vote on it next time.
Okay, you good with that, David?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, thank you, I
just do, yeah,
It's a good point.
yeah, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
And if the Cotuit Fire District emails forward to your personal email address, is that acceptable?
That's
for
right,
you?
that's right.
Because I think that's
Yes.
what they do, because Mark Lynch was having trouble receiving email, and that's why he gave out his Mark William Lynch at Yahoo address at the school committee
Oh,
meeting.
that's right, yeah. Okay, Little River, Levels Pond.
So, last spring, I believe in April, the town council voted on the annual capital appropriations budget. And that is a wish list submitted by each department and ranked in order of priorities. And so the Department of Natural Resources put in bids for replacement down dock, for example. In those items, fairly high ranked in the priority of the DPW and the Department of Natural Resources was a study to be conducted with the State Division of Fish and Wildlife to look into the restoration of Little River as a herring. And that was approved for $90,000. I was curious about what happened after the vote and contacted the town. Jessica made an introduction to Amber Unruh, the
Yep.
head of special projects, and they are grateful for any cooperation that we can give them. They were unaware that Tom Caberi and
Yeah.
Air Force work has been done. And he has an October 15th deadline to file a grant application for NOAA to fund the ongoing business. So I'll just stay on top of it and let you know if there are any questions, but if you can warn Tom
Yep,
at Sole Source that I'm gonna give him the 2021 April report, and that'll probably get the ball rolling too fast.
Yeah, and I don't know if you talked to her about this, David, but part of the intent in reducing our pumping, in addition to the reason before, was the potential impacts on Little River.
Exactly.
Make sure
I
she's
said,
aware of
we're
that.
not gonna be able to get herring if
Yeah.
if the river dries out.
Right, yeah, right.
So it's,
Yeah.
and in general, I know that, we've had some issues with clogged culverts under 28,
Yeah.
and it took some time to get the DPW to clear that, and, just in general, I like to see that things stay healthy.
And I know I was out in the field with Tom Cambreri, walking up in that area, and he has some interesting theories and ideas on whether certain parts of that actually would have flow anyways.
Right.
So I think.
I don't think it would. I mean, I've walked the length of it.
When we go across the power,
Yeah,
particularly.
and I mean, it's not a natural outlet to
Right.
this pond. It was ditched to bring the water to irrigate the cranberry bogs. And whether herring ever went up there, I don't know.
Not my lifetime.
Not in my life.
So maybe worth keeping Tom in this picture. 'Cause
I mean,
he's-
I think this is a fool's errand to restore herring around the main neck of in a cranberry ditch.
would be the first thing.
Completely clogged and would cost $1 million. And I'm still not sure that you'd ever have enough flow.
Yeah,
If you go to the little bridge, at Bell Farm. And put your waders on, or in the summer, just walk with your bare feet. You go down, there's 2 feet of silt,
yeah,
and there's 3 inches of water on top of the silt. That's the river in that location, and that's where there's flow. And up above the power lines is really just no flow. So, I mean,
well, maybe what should happen is Amber and Tom and whoever else is interested. Walk the stretch and try to get a visualization whether this is possible.
Well, I think that because so much money has been spent by the state on levels, on alum treatments and trying to keep that from eutrophying and doing the cyanobacteria.
Right.
There's just concerns that the whatever outlet pipe there is clogged or lost, and, I think they're just hoping to get turnover of pumps.
Yep.
I'd be more concerned about fixing levels and worrying about the area.
So what action do we need here?
No, just I
Okay.
wanted to give you guys an
Thank
update.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for that, and certainly let us know, keep us informed. Chris, edits on the handbook?
Yeah, the last thing we have on here is just a few things, Warren Rutherford went through. Did a bunch of, grammatical things, changed some font. Looked at a few things we had concerns with. Adjusted a few different things on there to, I think he shortened up
The WISP policy.
the WISP policy, yeah, and so everything in there, he had, done some work. We had him, Jen and I sat down, looked at some stuff, had him add in, I sent you guys out a list of the adjustments that were on there. Nothing's permanent, that's why I wanted to say, for your consideration and your review. We had changed, the 10-mile radius on there to a 30-minute response time. We found out the 10-mile radius actually went over the canal and was hitting Sagamore. When one of my employees said, I can live in Sagamore, that's your 10-mile radius.
10
And I
miles.
said, but how are you gonna make it here in 30 minutes? It says, doesn't say that. It says I gotta be here. I said, well, you just never can go on call. So he was kind of had me there in a little bit, so we changed it back to where it used to be 6 miles. And a previous superintendent changed it to 10 to make sure he could live where he wanted to live, I think, to tell you the truth.
So these were all things that have come up.
Yeah, so there was a few different things on there.
Somebody living in Sagamore?
Mhm.
When I hired him, he was living over the bridge. He had a year to get here and he didn't get here within a year, so we had to let him go. He actually,
He left.
he left like within, a couple weeks of a year and said, I'm good, here's my stuff, I'm leaving. And he had another job off Cape someplace. He kind of used us as a stepping stone, I think. And that's one of the things we were trying to avoid. Let's see. On page 30, we added, this was the whole thing that we had. When we retire here, we get 25% of all sick time that we had. And a buyback, a check for 25%, whatever's left on the books. It's been that way. I think it was George Calise put it in years and years ago when they first redid this structure. And the fire department has accepted it also. Since then, we ran into when one of the guys died at 29 years working here, he died, fully expecting to retire within the next 5 years. We didn't want his family to lose it, so we came to the board at the time, asked them if we could still give the 25%. They voted yes. We gave his wife and everybody the 25% of his sick time and a check and said, thank you, sorry for your loss and everything else at the time. We just wanted to make it official. We kind of set precedents there and wanted to make it official. So that's why we put that in there. It just basically says, in case of death, we'll go to their,
Assuming they're fully vested in.
assuming their estate, assuming they're vested in retirement and were an employee at the time. Yeah.
You might want to run that one by Mark Boudreau, because on pension and survivor benefits and other stuff, there needs to be signed off on by the spouse on the beneficiary. So the employee would have to say, if it goes to.
Okay. You'll mark that down?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. No, I have to call him for a couple things. It'd be nice.
We
I
haven't
haven't talked to
for a while.
Mark, yeah, I haven't talked to Mark in a little while. I used to have him on Zoom, quick dial, that's it. Oh, reminds me, I should tell you guys too. I did tell you already, I'm sorry. On page 44 and 45, we added, the healthcare stipend that I've been talking about for a few years. Fire department has it. It's, instead of taking the medical that we have here, they give you, I think it's a 1/4% or a 1/2 percentage of the cheapest form out there. So basically, they give you $9,000 a year to not take the insurance here. Fire department accepted this in their last negotiating contract 6 years ago. So they've been doing it for the last 6 years. They gave me the information on that. And I kind of wrote it word for word. So that's already been gone through their lawyers, I believe, when it was put in there, but I could run it by, if you guys want to do it, I could run it by Mark also, just to check on it.
How recently was that changed in the fire department?
About 6 years ago, when they did their renegotiating and everything else, they put it in, there's a lot of statute in it and everything, it's in the way it's written is the way it's in there.
Since you're talking with Mark, maybe you just
Yeah.
ask him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I could ask him about to
6
make sure
years ago.
everything's legal there.
Yeah.
And everything, it's the same thing with retirement, there's something there that says. I'll have to ask them that it can't come from the retirement board, or it can't be part of your pension, I mean, your yearly salary, it's a stipend. So there's a little question on that.
Hmm.
We added Juneteenth in, because that was voted on in a meeting for a holiday. We also added a paragraph after the day of Thanksgiving. David doesn't know this, but you guys have known.
Yeah.
Since I've been superintendent, before me, everybody, since Lenny was here. We come in every November and say, hey, we've done great this or October. Well, we've done great in November or October. We'd like to get the day after Thanksgiving. We'll all be on call. We just don't have to come in, and everything. And
Just the office is closed.
And you say, you say, yep, we give you the day afterwards. Just the office is closed, but we're all on call. If anybody has to come in between business hours, you get paid regular time. You don't get overtime or anything like that. So we put that in there. So just in case I forget to ask you guys, and everybody goes, what did you ask? And added the allowance of sick time to be used, parental leave. It's always been, if you have parental leave with us, it's the same as like paternal leave. You couldn't use sick time involved in it, because the way sick time it says you can only use sick time for sick time. Then they started out with the parental laws and everything else, and it's always been kind of a blue area in the past. If somebody's come to me and said, hey, my wife's having a baby, I want to be there with her for the next, so many weeks. I say, that's fine, you can do it, take your 2 weeks vacation, then, you don't get paid for 2 weeks, is what I have to tell him. And he's like, well, I got plenty of sick time, can I just take sick time? It doesn't say you can, sick time is supposed to be used for any sick time. This says you can, that's all, and it's just to bring it up to be a little more.
Yeah.
But how does this relate to the state law, which is parental and medical family leave, Family and Medical Leave Act, I think it's called.
Correct.
So that guarantees a new mom 12 weeks.
It's a mom or father,
Yeah.
or yeah,
And the state pays the salaries during that time. So would this be in addition to those 12 weeks or?
no, nope. I believe we have 8 weeks on the parental law says 8 weeks here. And it's can be used at any accrued time. So it's always said that.
Well, is our handbook in conformance with the new
Yes.
state family and medical?
Yes,
leave?
that's one of the things that Warren originally put in here when we first did this to make sure we were, and I asked him to recheck on it, and he says, it says on there accrued, Chris. I said, yeah, but it also says further back, they can't use anything for sick time.
So they look.
So I just want to look for, so I said, I was looking where it says accrued, including sick time, can we put in there? And that's all we did basically is put in, just so they could use sick time.
Mr. Chair, I gotta go.
Okay.
And I think the 12 weeks,
I don't have any more votes anyways, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think the 12 weeks only guarantees that we hold their position. I don't think there's any pay
Oh, that's
involved with it.
yeah,
You just have to hold their position.
that bar, it's,
But it's basically grouping our time off as paid per month rather than vacation, personal sick.
so that's all
The
the,
private sector just calls it now, personal time off.
yeah, PTO, yeah, a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah.
Taking.
And a lot of them are unlimited. still.
Yeah. So, Carol?
So I would just like to say that if you're talking about all these benefits and comparing it to what the fire department has. The fire department has collective bargaining every 3 years with lawyers, with union representatives, with, prevention committee representative, a fire commission representative. There's a lot of talks about it. It's not just something that's done at the commissioners meeting, in a handbook. So I just caution, ask you to be really mindful about how you're going about this and, make sure that everything is vetted.
Yeah, I see that. I guess my other thought is, since the fire department's doing that, if we were to be consistent with what they're doing, aren't we on pretty good grounds? I don't know. That's maybe not. We don't know. Okay,
That's why I'd asked Mark about it and everything else, talked to him, I don't know if he sat in on those negotiations, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, he could, if he might have wrote some stuff that's on there. This is the only thing that,
We don't have a union.
yeah, we don't have a union.
We could.
So, yeah, we could very easily, yeah.
I'm almost
Believe Colin.
surprised that, I'm almost
Look at it,
surprised
yeah.
that employee handbook stuff wouldn't have to be approved by the Prudential Committee as opposed to just us.
It should.
It kind of strikes me that way, you know, because this is like,
Well, yeah, it's never been because you guys run the water department and the employees of the water department.
it just seems,
They're the financial overseers of the district, so you can come discuss stuff with them and everything, but you guys are the final say on anything.
well, Chris, my take is everything you got in there seems reasonable to me.
Yeah.
And I think we want to be fair and current and progressive and all that good stuff. I think Carol's point's a good one. We
Yeah.
should be careful that we do this properly.
Yeah.
And frankly, this is my least expertise, so I don't, I mean, it makes me a little nervous.
But yeah, that's why I sent it out to you guys first, you could look at it, and I
Yeah.
wrote what,
Yeah,
this is the only thing I put in there, but you have the whole, I don't, did you ever get the original handbook that we had?
I've got the big binder, yeah, it's got all.
Yeah, I think it's.
Okay.
we got to wrap. Isn't somebody coming in here at 7?
Well, the calendar showed a group at 7, but civic is at 7:30, right?
Well, just one more minute on this then. I just want to make sure we get this right procedurally. We don't need to take an action on this today.
No, we don't, and we don't have, this is just something we want to get in effect,
Okay, so
and everything that changes. Warren has asked me if he could put this down as a final, I'm just gonna tell him to keep it as a draft, I can change what I have. Because some of the stuff that he sent me, I can actually change the wording on, if I have to, with talking to Mark.
Okay. Jen, I don't remember who has been assigned to we have policy committee and a bylaw
bylaw.
committee.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just a policy thing. And I'm just wondering if somebody wants to go to the Prudential Committee with a question about, procedure. Do they want to be in on this relating to the fire process?
The policy committees and the bylaw committees are related to the Cotuit Fire District bylaws and policies.
Yeah.
Not the water department.
But the process you were describing, that's being done between the fire commissioners and the fire department staff.
Well,
And the union.
the union, they're
You guys, we don't
union,
have a union.
we don't have a union.
That's the difference.
So that's the difference there is the
Okay.
unions come in and they said, okay, we want. I don't even know, did they get somebody from the public even in there at all or anything? I mean, I know they have.
David, what are your thoughts on this? How we should proceed?
I think that we should not look for conformity with the fire department. No, we should do what is right.
Because it's a different animal.
It's totally different,
Okay,
totally different. It's the only other employer within the district. Well, no, the Prudential Committee also has employees, but, I think we can rule on these matters as long as we're comfortable that we're in conformance with the state, parental leave stuff.
Yeah, and that
Um,
was Warren's expertise.
Yeah, that was Warren that we talked to, but even last time when we did this update. I ran it by a contractual lawyer, I believe it was,
Who did we do that with?
Pierce out of
Thank you.
Hyannis, Richard Pierce, I think it was.
Michael.
Pierce, I'm sorry. Richard Pierce was, sorry. But Michael Pierce had looked at it last time and he gave us the whole thing. Warren Rutherford wrote one for the town of Barnstable and he wrote ours very similar to it. When he did it originally, I had him do an update, I think 5 years ago. And this time I'm gonna have him do an update again.
And I think
And
it
this is
was-
one of the things that happened last time was that Ray looked at it and said, this is fine and dandy, but Warren Rutherford isn't a lawyer.
Right. And I
Oh,
think it
what
was
about
Mark
Boudreaux?
Boudreaux that
Boudreaux?
referred us
Right,
to Mike.
yeah, and I mean, these are just procedural things. So I can give Mark a call and say, would you rather me go to this other lawyer
Right,
who's more professional?
he'll refer us.
He'll refer us if it's got something to do with
hold
something.
on, David, I didn't hear what you said. What do you think?
I was just willing to talk to Com and to West Barnstable and see what they're doing. In terms
Okay.
of their review on their handbook stuff. And
Excellent.
Okay,
Because if we have any gaps with surrounding districts. Yeah, it's always our comps aren't comparable, so I don't want to.
Right,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
okay. So we're not gonna take an action now.
No, you've given me a couple points to talk to a couple different people,
All right,
and I'll tell you what we can and what we can't do.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem, again, taking action right now on Juneteenth and the day after
Right.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the survivor benefits on the accrued sick leave, that has got to get done correctly and
Right.
general law.
right,
And then, the justification with the state.
yes,
And that's-
yes, okay.
Those are the areas.
All right, what are we getting at?
Next meeting date?
Meeting date, I guess we can go back to the Wednesday. Wednesday's better for everybody, generally?
Is that gonna work for you?
Yeah, it's just one Wednesday.
Okay.
Are we sort of consistently the third Wednesday of every?
Yeah,
We are.
And we don't have to do that. You have it better, you have something.
No, I just, if people get into that habit.
Yeah, that's what we would do.
Who did you say you talked to about the river?
Amber.
Amber
Under.
Unruh.
UNRUH. I'll forward the email.
Okay. So what would the date be, Jen?
10/18,
10/18.
Wednesday, 5:45. Freedom Hall and Zoom.
Hold on one second here.
You need glasses again?
No, got
You can make it bigger.
visitors for a whole week. I'm trying to wait. I'm not sure. Let's schedule it. 18th,
For the following Wednesday is the 25th.
25th.
That would be the last Wednesday of the month.
That might be a better bet for me, because I might have issue that week, week of the 18th. David, are you okay on the 10:25?
Yes.
Let's do that.
Okay.
That's safer. Thank you.
Bet you Mark has something to do that.
Probably.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Move the adjourn. Second.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
You. So,
Next, quarter, so October, November, December, that's not different from the city association, but as a.
Excellent.